Guys, I finally got it. One of the stores at Metro actually picked it up and I was able to purchase it. Right here we have the Moto G Stylus 2025. Now the price tag for this is going to vary. If you're new to the company, it's going to cost you $80 plus the first month bill. If you're porting, it's going to be $29.99. But if you wait a couple months, 9 times out of 10, this is going to probably end up dropping in price, seeing how, new phones tend to sell a little bit more at Metro by T-Mobile. Now, it is a stylus, of course, on this particular device. They did decide to upgrade the screen, which we're going to talk about a lot of these features on this device, but I also need to talk about the parts that are actually bad. And quite frankly, there's quite a few of them, if we're being completely honest here, when we compare it to its little brother, well, big brother, the Motorola Edge, but another comparison for another video. Anyway, let's get right into this and talk about the good, the bad, and if this is actually worth purchasing or upgrading from your previous device. Let's kind of talk about the design of the phone before we get into the specifications. So as you notice, you still have the 2 cameras. You have the flash. Don't let that fool you. And I believe this is probably a depth sensor, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in the actual camera settings when I give you guys some raw footage. Of course, you still have your lock button on the side right here. You have your volume rockers right here. This particular model doesn't have the action button like the Motorola Edge 2024 had, but that's okay. Many people aren't necessarily missing it. You do get an SD card slot, of course. You have the headphone jack on the bottom. Headphone jack, y'all. So for the people that don't want to use Bluetooth, or they want to use Bluetooth and switch between the two and they're able to use the headphone jack, it is back. This is actually really good for me personally because I do reviews on phones. So having a headphone jack and companies sending me that type of thing is definitely worthwhile, so I don't have to use an adapter. USB-C on the bottom, and of course we do have the good old stylus right here. So let me unlock this phone real fast so you can, here we go, so you can see the stylus right here. So you have settings where you can actually customize what you see on your stylus screen. You can turn off the shortcuts if you want to, so whenever time you pull out your stylus, this little menu won't pop up. But, you can just do some shortcuts. And I can honestly say that the stylus is very, very, very responsive. So far, I've done things like sent text messages, wrote text messages with the actual stylus itself, or did the swipe feature with the stylus. And everything is pretty responsive for the most part when it comes to that. In addition to that, you have a decent sized battery. Matter of fact, let me not jump the gun. Point is, nice phone so far, physically, but it does have its drawbacks, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And of course, I believe this is a plastic body. You do have the vegan leather in the back. So when you compare this to the Motorola Edge, which is what I'm currently using, the 2024, I do feel like the Edge feels a little bit more premium. It also feels lighter than this one, obviously, because this is a chunkier, fatter body, but I do like it. And of course, this is vegan leather. So for my people out there that don't want a case for this, don't put it in a purse. Don't put it in your pocket with knives. Don't put it in your pocket with change or anything that can scratch it, because once you scratch this material, it's very easy to stain it and scratch it, and you want to be careful. I know a lot of us just want to show the beauty of the phone itself, but that comes with its drawbacks if you choose to do so. Now, with that being said, I'm going to go over a little bit specs. I'm going to try to put it up on the screen to the right, I believe, and let's kind of talk about this. So first things first. You're only going to get about 2 years of software updates for this. So up to, I guess, Android 17, but I don't know how Motorola really does that. My Moto Edge is still on Android 14, and it's been basically a year, and we haven't got the 15 update. So I'm not too, I don't have too much faith in their updating schedule, you know what I mean? But when it comes to the screen itself, this actually has a maximum brightness of 3000 nits. So if you go outside and turn this up in the sun, you can actually see the screen very clearly. I was super surprised about that, and I do like that about this particular phone, that the screen is an upgrade over the Motorola Edge, and it's definitely an upgrade over the Stylus 2024, so keep that in mind. The resolution is 1220 by 2712. The aspect ratio is 20.9. I don't know how to say it, semicolon, whatever it is. But anyway, the PPI for people that are interested is 444 PPI. Corning Gorilla Glass 3, and to be honest with you, the touch controls are actually very, very responsive to this. Now, initially, when you first get this phone, you will probably go through a little bit of lag. It does require you to kind of just keep the phone powered on for it to just get optimized a little bit better, but it works pretty well. under strenuous activity, you do notice that there's some shortcomings of it, but that's pretty much it. So that's display right there. Now, this particular model is the 128 gig model with 8 gigs of RAM. If you buy it factory unlocked, you're more likely you're going to get the 256 from Motorola, but remember, this is Metro by T-Mobile, so keep that in mind. You also have the main camera, which is going to be a dual camera. Only 2 cameras, remember, this is just 2. The third one is not a camera at all. It's more so like a depth sensor, I believe it is. But anyway, dual camera is 50 megapixels, 13 megapixels for the secondary camera. It does record up to, it claims 120 FPS, but in the settings, you get 60 for 1080p, 4K 30 frames, and I'll show you the difference in a little bit. Selfie camera is 32 megapixels, so it's similar to what you're already used to for the Motorola devices, but I do feel like the camera is a little bit more stable than the previous model, so kind of keep that in mind. These also ship with Dolby Atmos for the speakers. Most Motorola devices do at this point, so if you're a Motorola user, you won't be surprised about that. You do have Bluetooth 5.4. It comes with NFC. I personally have a job where I have to scan ID tags, so they make us use our personal phone, so that I actually bought this one, so I don't have to use my main phone for that, and it works like a charm. No radio built in, no big deal. You can download one. USB type, unfortunately, is only 2.0. Nothing crazy about that. You would think they would add a little bit more because it doesn't take much to put 3.0 in here, but they didn't. You have a fingerprint sensor, of course, which I'm going to show you guys right here. Here's the fingerprint. I do feel like the fingerprint works very well when it does work. Kind of like, let me show you. There you go. And of course, you do have the face unlock. Let me see if I can get that working. Show my face. Come on. Face not recognized. I'm on an angle with this camera, so there we go. So the little unlock symbol right there unlocked. Let me do that again. See if I can show you guys. Yep, and it unlocked. The face unlock is actually pretty good. But if you're in pitch blackness or really dark areas, the face unlock 9 times out of 10 is not going to work. It's not nearly as advanced as Apple's face unlock, so keep that in mind. But no fingerprint on the back, only on the screen. I actually preferred it when the fingerprint was on the back on the Motorola side. I thought that was pretty creative, but I guess they want to keep up with the times, and people don't really care for that, I guess. 5,000 mAh for the battery, so you have a big, beautiful battery, as you know who says. And the charging speeds is 68 watt wired, and you're getting 15 watt wireless charging. So you can charge this phone pretty fast, probably in about 40 so minutes or so from 0 to 100% with that 68 watt charging. But keep in mind, they want you to use Motorola's turbo charging, but I actually use my own chargers that I purchased, so I don't have an issue whatsoever. So overall, it's not too bad at all. I think it's pretty good. I'm not going to say that it outperforms the Moto Edge in just overall everyday activities, but if you're gaming and you're using it for editing and things like that, you're going to notice that it's pretty optimized for the most part, but the phone does get a little bit warm in those regards. Anyway, with that being said, let's hop over to the next section and talk a little bit more about some of the phone features. Gaming experience on this has been very, very good. I was super surprised about that. I felt like it was going to overheat or something initially, but it didn't. I played probably about 10 Call of Duty games back to back, and it didn't get super hot. Now, every phone gets warm or hot when you play video games on it, but I can honestly say that this one, surprisingly, it's optimized very well when it comes to the gaming aspect of it. So to kind of give you an example, right now, actually, let me show you the graphics for this. I currently have this on, now when you first launch this, the graphics are actually on high, and the frame rate is on max when you first initially sign into this. I actually had switched it over to medium, and I put the frame rate on very high. I do that on every phone. Doesn't matter if it's an iPhone, doesn't matter if it's an Android high-end phone. I'm a firm believer that when you get a phone, you're supposed to preserve it as much as you can. You don't want to run down the battery faster than what you need it to. And, you know, better safe than sorry. But it actually does run at higher graphics. But it's a mid-tier phone, so I just want to make sure that there's no lag whatsoever. So, so far, it does run pretty well. Like, it's really smooth. I was so surprised on how smooth this thing just ran with gaming in general, right? Where I didn't really feel any lag whatsoever. It's super responsive. As a matter of fact, this feels like similar, only for Call of Duty Mobile, keep in mind. This reminds me of how the iPhones run really smoothly. Even at 60 hertz, though this phone is 120 hertz. I totally forgot to mention that. But you can actually, it launches on auto, where it'll switch between 60 hertz and 120, but you do have the option to just leave it on 120 hertz too, if you prefer the faster speeds. But yeah, even if I played games like Once Human, a new game on mobile, it's on PC for a little while, but you know, not a bad game either. That one particularly plays on lower settings, which, you know, I kind of expected it to. You know, this is a mid-tier phone. If you're going to play Genshin Impact, you are going to have to play this on lower settings. But just keep in mind, this is a 128 gig model. So, you know, you're not going to get crazy amounts of space. You're not going to be able to hold 10 games on there that are 20 gigs apiece. You are going to have to kind of pick and choose if you're using the Metro by T-Mobile brand. But outside of that, I think it's pretty good. So I'm just going to play a little bit more for you guys. I can't really find any enemies at this exact moment. They're getting, I'm not even going to say they're getting slaughtered. It's just, you know, they're everywhere. I didn't know people were actually playing this time of morning. It must be people waiting on a train, going to work, and kids going to school. But yeah, I'm actually glad that this runs very well. And believe it or not, like I said before, it doesn't run super hot either. Like, again, I could play about 6 or 7 games on this. It'll get a little warm. But with the previous model, which is, I'm referring to the Moto, what was it called? The Moto Razr Flip 2024. That thing had no ventilation whatsoever. So after maybe a match or two, you find your phone actually lagging, to be exact. And that was a bad thing for a gamer out there. So I wasn't actually able to use it. So when they announced this phone with the Snapdragon 3 processor, I was like, there's no way in the world this is going to be able to run some of those other games that I play, right? And it did. It ran very, very well, as you can see. So there's minimal lag. Like occasionally when you sign into a game and it's actually on the loading screen, you saw it lag a little bit right there. But once you're actually in game, I haven't had any issues. Everything is responsive. Obviously, I'm using a controller, but if you do decide to use the touch screen also, I haven't had any dead touch zones for this particular game so far. And I do think that that's also a good thing. Sorry about the rambling, but I just want to just give you guys, you know, closer to a full match so you can understand that I'm not joking when I say that this runs very, very well in that regard. The only downside I could say is that when it comes to daily features with the processor, whether you're editing an app or certain things like that, you are going to notice it kind of lag a little bit switching between applications. But outside of that, it's a pretty solid phone. Pretty solid phone overall. Should finish this match out, shouldn't I? It's only like 3 more kills. Surely we're not going to lose, hopefully. So I'm going to go ahead and try to finish this match out, get a win for the team. Helps my overall anyway. So only 2 more people left. Come on, guys. Yep, we won. All right, so with that being said, not bad. The performance is actually really, really good. You do have the option for Motorola right here to actually, this is an interesting feature, to block calls, block notifications. You can have lock mode and different things like that. You can put it in like an FPS mode where it just runs a lot cooler. It even shows you your GPU right here. So for all the technical people out there, you can even change the performance for gaming. Keep in mind, I didn't mess with any of that. It's automatically on balance when you first initially load the game. And, you know, that's good enough for me. As long as it works, that's all that matters. So if you're buying this for a younger person, you're not trying to spend too much money, especially if you're a Metro by T-Mobile like me, it will work perfectly fine for you. So keep that in mind. I know one of the most common things that people have been asking me lately in some of these videos are how good are the speakers. So I'm going to give you a sample. So I'm just going to play something that is YouTube friendly right now. Give me a moment. And I'm going to play it loudly so you can hear it. So the first one is going to be called Warzone. So you can just kind of hear the bass and the quality of the music. Let me turn this up enough. I don't want to blast it. Not yet. Here we go. Sounds like it's coming from the bottom right here. Yeah, the speaker's coming from the bottom right here. Not a bad speaker. Not the clearest either. So to be honest with you, if you're watching this out loud, which I have done for YouTube and things like that, the speaker is clear enough, but you could definitely tell that it's not the most highest end speaker where doesn't do bass super well. Of course, there's a phone, so I don't really know which phones that aren't expensive that do bass, that perform well when playing music out loud in terms of bass. But I think it's pretty solid for the most part. You can hear the instruments and things like that. So if you're watching Netflix, your child is watching this, you give it to them to watch some Blues Clues or some type of anime or whatever it is to keep them quiet, it should work in that regard. But just to kind of give you an idea of how vocals sound, let's do Ice and Fire, and you can hear that yourself. Yeah, you hear that quality? It's a little muffled, kind of. It's not super clear. It doesn't have that hi-fi quality that I expect most phones to kind of have. Here we go. Here's the vocals. It's clean. Very clean. So yeah, the vocals aren't bad on this at all. Like I actually listened to the Joe Budden podcast on this. I listened to, like, you know, Joe Rogan, some of the shorts, listen to a little bit of political videos here and there from time to time. Got to be careful with that. You don't want to get stuck in that political landscape where every day is just turmoil. You know what I mean? Live your life freely. But anyway, it does perform very, very well. So, you know, if you're listening to stand-up comedy, which is what I do, it sounds good. You don't want to listen to the speakers at 100% over time because it can actually blow out your speakers. And it can happen to any phone, whether it's cheap or expensive, so kind of keep that in mind. But there are actual phones out there that have like professional speakers inside of it, but just keep in mind you'll be paying professional prices. But for the asking price, I do feel like the maximum volume for this is pretty good. I did turn it down for this particular part because, you know, I'm in where I live. It's an apartment. I don't want other people to be able to hear it. Not that the walls are paper thin, but just to be, you know, courtesy. It's like 5 a.m. and I'm doing this. But yeah, it's not bad at all. So for the person out for the person out there that plays it on speakerphone, if you're talking on speakerphone, it's actually pretty clear. I like it. It's very concise and people can hear you clearly. But realistically, just stick to the headphone jack or a Bluetooth headset, something inexpensive, and you should be perfectly fine. So that's a little section with the speakers themselves. Now, for anyone watching this section of the video, just know that I do plan on reviewing this phone again in about a month's time and just talk about the jinx and any issues if they exist outside of what I already know. Now, the cameras, as you see right here, can be very, very clear. I did take pictures outside near 30th Street Station near Philadelphia in case anyone is interested in where that actually was. That's right where that bridge is if you go onto the JFK side. Came out crystal clear. Now, if you're outside, the camera does still come out clear, but it doesn't do a good as job as picking up the quality of the background. In low lighting, it doesn't perform super well, but it's not bad for what it does. Most people are going to use this during the day anyway, so I wasn't too concerned about that. When it comes to the cameras, the top video that you're seeing is 60 frames. The bottom one is 4K 30 frames. So 1080p up top, 4K at the bottom, 30 frames. You can't get up to 60. It doesn't have 60 frames on 4K, so I don't really suggest using that. I do think that the 60 frames moves a whole lot smoother and a lot more people are going to use that one. And when you pay attention to the detail of both, it's not so much of a dramatic difference where you'll say the 4K feature is a necessity. Now, obviously, if you're coming from a high-end phone, Galaxy S24 FE, an iPhone, or even a more expensive Galaxy or Sony device, or Pixel, I mean, take your pick. You're going to get better frame rates with those devices. They're going to perform a whole lot better. But the processor on this is another issue when it comes to the cameras, and I need to talk about that real fast. Even though I kind of praised what you saw, there is a negative to this. So let's say you're doing something, for instance, like editing a video through UCut. If you use your phone, occasionally, and it's not just UCut, but this happens just from time to time. Motorola is a little jinky like that with the cheaper processors. I feel like the camera is more advanced than the processor. Like it needs more processing power. This is like I think it's a Snapdragon Gen 6 or 6th Gen 3rd edition, something like that. I forget exactly what it's called. I kind of mentioned it earlier in this video, but it's an underperforming processor for a Moto G stylus. This is a criticism that I always had with Moto. The stylus line is defined, in my opinion, where people like it because of the pen. Stop using trash processors in this phone. You need at least a 7th gen. They should have put the Moto Edge processor in here, and I think it would have performed a lot better and been a lot smoother, but I could be wrong about that. But the point is, overall, you shouldn't have any problems. If the phone gets hot or starts overheating over time, not with the camera, but just in general, you do want it to cool down first, especially with this hot summertime before you start taking photos, because it is going to work in overtime. It was 80 something degrees outside, and I noticed that as it kept getting hotter throughout the day and the heat was bearing on the back of the phone, when I did this video, it did act a little sluggishly. Now, when it was 100 degrees, you know, the camera still worked, but the phone got hot. When it was 80 something degrees outside, it was a lot smoother and the camera's transition was a lot better. So you do want to make sure that you keep your phone in a more, I guess, friendly, safe environment. Obviously, if you work outside and things like that, the phone does work pretty well. It didn't overheat or explode or anything like that in your pocket like the Note 7. But again, you know, just temper your expectations with the camera. It's good, but it's not professional good. You know what I mean? But anyway, let's move on. I mean, the phone is called a Moto G stylus, so we got to do the stylus section. So for people that are wondering, stylus is on the bottom of the screen. All you got to do is press that in, pull this out, and believe it or not, as soon as you pull this out, even if the phone is locked, it kind of goes into this note mode right here where you can just draw and just write little notes of things that you want. Now, I know for some people this isn't a big deal, but for me, I don't really care to type, to be honest with you. So being able to, you know, do the bills up here and rent and just write things down quickly, which I could do a lot neater if you want to, it works well for me. And, you know, these are some of the features right here when it comes to the erasing. So it's actually very, very helpful to do. And of course, you can change the actual size of the font if you want to slim it down and things like that. Another cool feature, which I'm going to show you guys right here. Let me make sure that I have nothing crazy in this phone. Let me see. All right, I ain't got nothing crazy. It's right here where you see where it says you tap this with the pen, because the pen options are different. And if you tap this little screen right here, you can actually write notes to people. And when you send it, it'll play like this, which is really, really cool. In addition to that, let me just kind of clear that right here. You also have the option of changing how the notes pop up, and you can also change the color. So for example, hello, right? And then just do a little squiggly line. You could change the colors right here if you want to. And then when you press play, it'll actually send the note as is like this. I apologize. I had the screen all at the top of the screen right here. This is pretty cool. I like this feature. I just honestly use it to send my wife silly notes and to make her mad. At times like that, you know, call her family trash and the shit emojis. I just draw it up myself. But anyway, as soon as you pop the pen out, since the phone is currently unlocked, let me show you this feature right here. This is what happens. This actually pops up. You have the option to turn this quick note off if you want to. I personally leave it on because I think it's pretty useful. It gives me the options right here. You have handwriting calculator. You have sketch to image, freeform crop, screenshots. You can screenshot with this. Moto notes. This is basically the note section. So you can actually write notes, and every time you write a word, it turns into the actual typed word, which is pretty cool too. In addition to that, which I think I showed you this earlier, but I'll show you again, you have the option to actually change which quick shortcut you want. Gift maker, live messages. You know, you can change the apps right here where if you want to launch an app with the pen rather than this. I personally leave the shortcuts alone because I want it to be nothing but pen shortcuts. So kind of keep that in mind. But it's nice. This is not bad at all. I do really like it. You know, it's funny. I don't remember if I showed you guys. I probably did, but the point is, yeah, I did. I lose my track of thought sometimes, so I do apologize for that. But the pen isn't super loaded with features. If you're used to the 2024 model, you'll be used to this one. I'm not going to tell you to upgrade from 2024 to this one, though this one does have faster charging. It does have a better screen. It does have wireless charging and stuff that I believe the previous model didn't have. I think the other one was like 25 or 30 watt. So you are going to get better life choices, quality choices, 2 years of software updates and all that stuff. It's not bad. If you're coming from Metro by T-Mobile, it's definitely worth it. If you're buying this straight out, you know, like Best Buy or Motorola, and you're not getting a discount, what's it, like $400? That is pretty expensive. And for $400, you can get many different phones under, you know, that are non-Motorola that may have better specifications than this. Matter of fact, you can get phones under Motorola for $400 that are better than this one, but they will come with 256. Still a solid phone though, I'll give it that. We got to talk about the good and the bad. Can't just tell you everything good in the video and go by, and like that's unrealistic. You need to know about the bad too. So let's keep going. So The $1,000,000 question is, do I suggest this phone to other people? The answer is going to be yes, and the answer is going to be no. So let me explain. Like I told you guys earlier, I'm actually recording off a Moto Edge 2024. I do feel like the cameras on this are better than that particular phone. The reason why I'm not comparing the STYLUS 2024 is because that phone's irrelevant to me. I want to compare it to a more powerful phone to see how it actually stacks up. Remember, the Moto Edge had the Snapdragon 7 2nd gen, while this one has the Snapdragon 6 3rd gen. It's not more powerful. I'm just going to be honest with you right off the bat. If you have a Motorola Edge, that phone is going to perform better than this one overall. You're going to see slowdowns when just swiping through the UI, a lot more than you should, to be honest with you. The odd part is the UI moves a little bit slower, but the applications move pretty good for the most part. I do feel like the download speeds on this, they're good at times. Like if you connect it to Wi-Fi, it's lightning fast. It actually works very well with Wi-Fi 6 and all that stuff. But when it comes to the regular downloading, I did have an issue from time to time where I did drop service a little bit, where like a little exclamation point. That doesn't happen normally to me with phones. It happens every so often. This particular device did that, but I was in the heat of downtown, so maybe that had something to do with it. Now, good aspects. You have a 68-watt fast charger, which means you can charge your phone in under an hour. You have 15-watt wireless charging. You have a stylus pen. You have a big 5,000 millihertz battery, though I do feel like the battery could be optimized better. It doesn't, Motorola normally has a super long battery life, which does last pretty well. But when you compare it to some of the other phones, like again, the Moto Edge, the Edge edges it out with battery life, no pun intended, but battery life, gaming performance, it's just better overall in terms of battery. I feel like it's optimized better. It charges, I'm not gonna say it charges cooler, because you can put that charge boost feature on there, which does heat up the phone. I'll admit, especially I'm using this without a case, so I'm feeling all the imperfections of the phone, so you got to be careful with that. But for the most part, again, it is a solid phone. So here's the good aspect. Remember, for Metro by T-Mobile, porting this is $29. Getting it brand new under a new account is $79. Now, activation fees and first month bills is going to kill you. You're going to end up paying close to $200 for this particular phone when it's all said and done. But that's not a bad price for a first month of service, activation, and the phone itself. They're going to tack on some other features that they're not supposed to, because Metros do underhanded things. I talked about this in videos, but you're still getting it cheaper than paying the regular like $399 for the phone. Now, if you're buying this from Motorola, let's be real here, that's $400. Now, the 256 gig model is going to be $400. I don't know about 128. Maybe it's going to be a little bit cheaper. I'm assuming 3 something. I'm not too sure. That's still not bad for the asking price, but you can go ahead and buy a Motorola Edge 2024 for like $299 from my understanding, brand new. And that phone's going to have a better processor. It's thinner. I know everyone doesn't care about curved edges. I happen to like the curved edges, the candy bar look. It does slim down the side of your phone and make it look like you have less real estate. I will admit that. But, you know, it's not bad. But this one also isn't bad either. So if you like the pen, and the pen is your primary function, this phone is going to work well for you. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say it's better than a Note Ultra. Only a fool would say that. It doesn't replace a Note Ultra. It doesn't outperform a Note, any Note for that example, if we're being completely honest here, that's current. But it is good for what it does for the mid-ranger. What I'm going to say is that not everyone needs a high-end phone. And as me, a person that reviews phones and reviews products in general, outside of the camera, I don't even need a high-end phone. So a lot of us get it due to vanity or simply because we want the newest thing, but you don't have to get the newest thing. This will last you for quite some time. My suggestion is just get the tempered glass, like I currently have it on this guy here. Get yourself a nice case. I ordered one off of Amazon, and you should be perfectly fine. And I think the insurance deductible for this is like $3 a month for Metro by T-Mobile, and then $50 or so to replace the phone completely, rather than paying the regular price for the device. So it does have value. I'm not here to say it's a bad phone. Overall, it is solid, but if you're upgrading from the Edge 2024, you are going to notice all the imperfections of this phone. What the Edge does better, what this does better. It's like give and take, and I do feel like it's more of a downgrade for Edge users than it would be for STYLUS users, or if you're coming from a G-Power, if you're coming from a STYLUS 2024, this is going to be an upgrade to you. And that's pretty much it. So anyway, I will do an update video for you guys when I actually do more with this phone. I only had it for a couple weeks now, so just kind of keep that in mind. but my opinion will change if I have any hiccups or anything like that. Anyway, like and subscribe like always, guys. Hopefully I covered the bases that hopefully I covered the bases for everything that you wanted to know about the particular device. Any questions you have, just put them in the description for anyone that watches this video, and I'll make a compilation of everything that you want me to check out. Anyway, like and subscribe like always. Gotta go to work. Peace.